Is your pixie cut secretly making you look older instead of younger? Most women over 50 pick a pixie for the freedom of it, and then wonder why it doesn't quite land the way it did on the woman in the salon photo. It's rarely the haircut itself. It's one of a handful of small styling and cutting choices that quietly date the whole look. Today I'm walking you through 7 classy pixie variations that stay sharp, soft, and current, no matter your hair texture or face shape. One of these fixes is so simple you can literally do it tonight in front of your mirror, and it's the one most women never think to ask their stylist for. Let's get into the first one, because it's probably closer to home than you'd expect. Part 1. The blunt fringe that's aging you, plus the choppy crop nobody talks about. Here's something a lot of stylists won't say out loud. A pixie with a hard, blunt, ruler-straight fringe is one of the fastest ways to accidentally add years to your face, even when the cut itself is beautifully done. It's not the shortness that's the problem. It's the line. A blunt fringe reads as rigid, and rigid reads as older, because it fights against the natural softness that mature skin needs around the eyes and brow. You've probably seen it happen to a friend, or maybe you've felt it happen to you. The cut looks sharp in the mirror at the salon, and then 2 days later, styled at home without the blowout, it starts to look severe instead of polished. The recognition here isn't about vanity. It's about noticing when a style choice is working against your face instead of with it. A heavy straight-across fringe sits like a shelf above the eyes, and on a mature face, that hard edge can emphasize exactly the areas we're usually trying to soften, like deeper set eyes or a more defined brow bone. It's not a flaw in you. It's a mismatch between the cut and the texture of time. The fix is a choppy, texturized crop instead of a blunt one. Ask your stylist for point cutting or razor texturizing along the fringe line specifically, not just a general trim. This breaks up that hard shelf into soft, irregular pieces that fall naturally and move with your face instead of sitting on top of it like a cap. The technique matters more than the length here. You can keep the fringe exactly as short as you like. What changes is the edge itself, from one clean line into several soft, staggered ones. Why does this work so well? Texture creates the illusion of movement, and movement reads as youthful in a way that stillness never does. A blunt line is static. A choppy, piecewise fringe catches light differently across each strand. So instead of one flat plane above your eyes, you get dimension, shadow, and softness. It's the same principle stylists use when they texturize the ends of long hair to avoid that heavy, blunt look. Applied to a pixie fringe, it does even more work because there's so little hair up there that every choice shows. Here's the snapback moment. The first time a woman gets this texturizing done, she usually says the same thing. People start commenting on her eyes. Not her hair. Her eyes. Because the soft, broken fringe line draws attention downward into the face instead of creating a hard barrier above it. That's the real result. It's not that the haircut suddenly looks younger in some abstract way. It's that people are actually looking at you, not at a rigid line above your face. There's a second layer to this same part, because the fringe isn't the only place blunt cutting shows up in a dated pixie. The crop itself, especially around the crown and sides, can suffer the same issue. A uniformly cut pixie, where every section is the same length with no texture, tends to sit like a helmet. It looks neat, but neat in the wrong way. The way a style looks when it's been set and sprayed into place rather than cut to move. The fix for the crown and sides mirrors the fringe fix. Point cutting throughout, not just at the edges. Layers of varying length, cut with a razor or texturizing shears rather than blunt scissors straight across. This gives the cropped lift at the crown without needing heavy product, because the layers themselves create the volume instead of relying on backcombing or spray to fake it. It also means the style grows out more gracefully, which matters more than people realize, since a pixie between cuts can look dated fast if it was cut with hard lines to begin with. The result here is a pixie that photographs well from every angle, not just the one the stylist showed you in the chair. Hard-edged crops tend to have a best angle and several awkward ones. A texturized crop looks intentional from the side, from behind, even a little tousled the morning after you wash it, because the texture is built into the cut rather than dependent on styling to hide the blunt lines. So here's the swap to hold on to. Before, a blunt straight line fringe with uniform blunt layers through the crop, sitting stiff and helmet-like by day 2. After, a choppy point-cut fringe with varied length layers throughout, moving naturally with soft, piecewise texture that looks deliberate even when it's undone. Small technical change, completely different read on your face. Now here's something most women never even think to bring up at their next appointment. And it has nothing to do with the fringe at all. It's about where your part sits, and it might be the single most overlooked reason a pixie starts looking tired. Part 2. The side part that's fighting you and the deep part combo. Most women pick their part line once, sometime in their 30s, and never revisit it again. That's the quiet trap. Hair thins and changes texture over the decades, and a part line that once sat neatly and disappeared into the style can, on thinner mature hair, start doing the opposite. It can widen. It can show more scalp than you'd like. And on a pixie, where there's so little hair to work with in the first place, a part in the wrong spot becomes the loudest thing in the whole style. A shallow, off-center part that used to look effortless can start to look like it's straining, especially at the crown, where hair loss and thinning tend to show first. You've probably noticed this without quite naming it. The photo from 10 years ago looks fuller at the roots than the photo from last month, and the part line is exactly the same in both. That's not you imagining it. That's just how hair changes, and the fix isn't more product, it's a different part. The fix is a deep side part, cut deliberately at an angle rather than styled that way after the fact. This is a cutting decision, not just a styling habit, and that distinction matters. When your stylist cuts the pixie with the deep part already built into the shape, the layers on the heavier side are left slightly longer, which gives you natural coverage and sweep exactly where thinning tends to show. The lighter side gets cut shorter and more textured, so the whole thing balances instead of looking lopsided. Why a deep part specifically, rather than just moving your existing part further over? Because the angle changes how light hits your scalp. A shallow, nearly centered part exposes a straight strip of scalp under overhead light, which is the single most aging thing about a thinning part line. A deep, diagonal part breaks that straight strip into an angled shadow instead, and angled shadows are far more forgiving than straight ones. It's the same reason a deep side part is a classic recommendation for anyone dealing with fine or thinning hair at any age. But on a pixie, it does double duty because it also completely resets the whole shape of the cut. Here's the outcome women notice almost immediately. Within days of switching to a properly cut deep part, most women say the same thing, that their pixie suddenly looks fuller, even though not a single new hair grew in. That's the power of the angle. You're not adding volume. You're redirecting where the eye lands, and the eye reads angled coverage as thickness, even when the actual hair density hasn't changed at all. There's a small technical detail worth knowing here too. And it's the kind of thing that separates a pixie that looks intentionally deep-parted from one that just looks messy. The part shouldn't run in a perfectly straight diagonal line either. Ask for a slightly softened, not quite straight part line, cut with the same point cutting technique from earlier. A razor-soft part line disappears into the hair instead of looking like a hard seam, which keeps the whole style feeling elegant rather than severe. This is also where face shape starts to matter. A deep side part tends to elongate around her face beautifully, drawing the eye on a diagonal instead of straight across. For a longer face shape, your stylist can adjust the depth slightly, keeping it deep but not extreme, so it still gives coverage and shadow without adding length where you don't need it. This is exactly why a good consultation matters more for a pixie than almost any other cut. There's no length to hide a part that doesn't suit you. The snapback result here is simple, and it's the one that matters most for a short cut like this. A pixie with the right part line looks styled even on a lazy day, because the shape itself is doing the work, not a blow dryer and 3 products. That's really the whole promise of a well-cut pixie. And it starts with something as small as where the line sits. So here's the swap. Before, a shallow, nearly straight part exposing a visible strip of scalp, especially at the crown. After, a deliberately deep, softly angled part cut into the shape itself, with longer coverage on the heavier side and short texture on the other, disappearing into the style instead of announcing itself. It's not a bigger haircut. It's a smarter line. Now there's one more area almost nobody asks about when they're getting a pixie, and it has nothing to do with the top of your head at all. It's what happens at the nape of your neck, and it's quietly one of the biggest giveaways of an outdated cut. Part 3. The nape that ages the whole cut, and the tapered fix. Nobody looks at their own nape. That's the honest truth. And it's exactly why this part of the pixie gets neglected more than any other. You check the front in the mirror, you check the sides, but the back of your neck is a blind spot, literally, and stylists sometimes take the path of least resistance back there because you're not going to catch it in the moment. The result is a hard, clippered line straight across the nape that looks like it belongs on a much younger, edgier cut. Or worse, on a cut that was rushed. That hard nape line does something specific and unflattering on mature necks. As skin loses a bit of elasticity over the years, a sharp, straight clipper line at the nape draws a hard boundary exactly where you don't want one. It can make the neck look shorter and the whole back of the haircut look unfinished, like it was clipped rather than cut. You might not clock it head-on in a mirror, but it shows up constantly in photos taken from behind, or at an angle, the kind your family takes without you noticing. The fix is a soft taper at the nape instead of a blunt clipper line, blended gradually from shorter at the hairline into the longer length above it. This is a specific request to make it your next appointment, because a lot of stylists default to the quick clean line, unless you ask otherwise. A tapered nape fades the hair length gradually rather than cutting it off in one clean sweep, so there's no hard edge at all, just a soft gradient that blends into the neck naturally. The technique itself usually involves clippers with a guard, worked upward in short, overlapping passes, rather than one straight pass across the bottom. It takes a few more minutes in the chair. It's worth every one of them. A tapered nape also tends to require less frequent touch-up trims than a blunt one, because as it grows out, the gradient just softens further instead of turning into an obvious, unkempt line the way a blunt nape does after 3 weeks. Here's why this matters more than most people expect for a pixie specifically. Short haircuts photograph and get seen from behind constantly. At dinner, in the car, walking away from someone. A soft, tapered nape reads as polished and considered from every single one of those angles, while a blunt one only really looks intentional from the front, in the mirror, in good lighting. You're essentially finishing the haircut, not just the front third of it. The snapback result shows up in the kind of comments women don't expect. Not "I love your haircut," but "you look so put together." A comment about the whole picture rather than the hair specifically. That's because a soft nape completes the silhouette of the cut, the same way a well-hemmed pair of trousers completes an outfit even though nobody's staring at the hem. It's a finishing detail, and finishing details are what separate a cut that looks done from one that looks unfinished. There's a texture consideration here too, because not every nape should be tapered the exact same way. If your hair is finer, a shorter, closer taper tends to look neater and avoids that slightly fuzzy appearance fine hair can get when it's left a touch too long at the neckline. If your texture has more natural body or wave, a slightly longer taper gives the nape a bit more softness and avoids looking overly severe. Either way, the principle stays the same, gradual, not abrupt. So here's the before and after to hold in mind. Before, a hard, straight clippered line at the nape that looks clean from the front but rough and unfinished from behind, especially as it grows out. After, a soft, gradual taper blending the nape into the neckline, looking considered and polished from every single angle, at every stage of regrowth. It's the detail nobody asks about, and it's the one that makes strangers assume you get your hair done every single week. There's still one more area of the pixie that trips women up more than any other, and it's not really about the cut itself. It's about how the top section behaves depending on your hair's natural texture. That's coming up next, and it might be the reason your pixie has never quite looked the way it did in the photo you brought to the salon. Part 4. The flat top mistake, fixing the crown for your real texture. Here's the surprising part almost nobody explains at the salon. The exact same pixie shape, cut with the exact same scissors, can look completely different on two women, purely because of what happens at the crown depending on hair texture. And most stylists cut every crown the same way regardless. If you have naturally straight or fine hair, a pixie cut without any texture built into the crown tends to fall flat within hours, no matter how much volume the finished style had when you left the salon. This is the mistake behind the phrase, "My pixie only looks good for the first day." It's not really about your styling routine at home, and it's not about your hair being unmanageable. It's that the crown was cut as one uniform length, which works fine on some textures and looks pancaked on others. Straight, fine hair especially needs the cut itself to create texture, because there's no natural wave doing that work for you. The fix is a specific request most women never think to make, layering with a slide cut or notching technique built into the crown itself, removing weight in a staggered pattern rather than trimming everything to the same length. This is different from the point cutting we talked about for the fringe. Slide cutting works along the length of each section rather than just at the tips, thinning strategic pieces so the remaining hair has room to lift and separate instead of sitting weighted down against the scalp. For finer or straighter hair specifically, ask your stylist to cut slightly shorter layers directly at the crown, a bit shorter than the surrounding length, rather than one continuous length running from crown to nape. This shorter internal layer acts almost like scaffolding. It naturally wants to stand up a little, and that small lift at the root is what gives the whole pixie its shape, without you needing to rely on a round brush and hot air every single morning just to get 10 minutes of height before it falls. If your texture runs more toward natural wave or curl, the fix looks slightly different. You likely have some natural volume already, so the risk isn't flatness, it's the opposite, an uneven, puffy crown if the layers aren't cut with enough intention. In that case, ask for the layers to be cut wet and check dry, so your stylist can see exactly how your particular wave pattern behaves at the crown and shape around it, rather than cutting purely by length and hoping the texture cooperates. Here's the part that genuinely surprises most women once they understand it. The difference between a flat pixie and a full one usually isn't about hair thickness at all. It's about whether the crown was cut for the texture you actually have, versus a generic template length. Two women with the same hair density can get wildly different results from the same haircut simply because one crown was layered correctly for the texture, and the other wasn't. The snapback result here shows up the very next morning, not weeks later. Women who make this specific request often say their pixie holds its shape through an entire day for the first time, without extra product or a mid-afternoon touch-up in the car mirror. That's the crown doing the work it was cut to do, rather than you fighting gravity with styling spray from 9 in the morning until bedtime. There's a small maintenance note worth knowing here too, because this crown technique relies on layering rather than one uniform length. It holds its shape a little longer between cuts than a flat, single-length crown does. A flat crown starts looking overgrown and heavy fast, since there's nowhere for the extra length to go but down. A properly layered crown just softens slightly as it grows, which buys you a bit more time between salon visits without the shape collapsing. So here's the swap to remember. Before, a uniformly cut crown that looks full for a few hours after styling, then falls flat and stays that way until the next wash. After, a texture-specific layering pattern at the crown, matched to whether your hair is fine and straight or naturally wavy, holding lift and shape from morning until night without constant maintenance. Same haircut length, completely different daily experience. There's one final piece to this puzzle, and it's less about the cutting technique and more about a single product habit that quietly works against everything we've just covered. It's the one adjustment that ties the whole pixie together, and it's coming up right now. Part 5. The product habit that undoes every good cut. This last one isn't a cutting technique at all, and that's exactly why it catches so many women off guard. You can have the perfect texturized fringe, the ideal deep part, a soft tapered nape, and a crown layered exactly right for your texture, and still end up with a pixie that looks dated, simply because of what happens after you walk out of the salon and start styling it yourself at home. The culprit is almost always the same thing: using too much heavy product applied in the wrong place. Here's the surprising fact most women don't know. On short hair, heavy creams, waxes, and pomades don't add polish the way they do on longer styles. They add weight. And weight is the enemy of everything a good pixie is trying to achieve. A pixie depends entirely on lift and movement to look current. The moment you weigh it down with a thick product meant for taming longer hair, you flatten exactly the texture your stylist spent time cutting in. The recognition moment here is a familiar one. You style it beautifully in the morning, and by lunchtime it's gone flat, or worse, it looks greasy at the roots even though you just washed it the night before. Most women assume this means their hair is simply oily or their pixie just doesn't hold, when really it's a product mismatch. A cream or wax formulated for smoothing frizz on longer hair behaves completely differently on short, texturized layers, where every strand is doing more visible work. The fix is switching to a lightweight texturizing spray or a small amount of matte clay, applied only at the roots and through the crown, Never smooth down the length of the hair the way you might with longer styles. A texturizing spray, applied to damp hair before a quick blow-dry with your fingers rather than a brush, actually enhances the lift your stylist built into the cut instead of collapsing it. If you prefer a cream or paste, use an amount smaller than a pea. Work between your fingertips first, then press lightly into just the crown and fringe. Never rake through the whole head. The reason this specific application method works is about where a pixie actually needs support. The ends of the hair, especially on the shorter sides, don't need product at all. They're short enough to hold their own shape naturally. It's the crown and root area doing the heavy lifting for the whole silhouette, so that's the only place that actually benefits from product. Applying it everywhere just adds unnecessary weight to sections that were never the problem in the first place. There's a drying technique that pairs with this too, and it makes a noticeable difference. Instead of directing airflow straight down onto the crown, which flattens it, tip your head slightly forward or to the side while blow-drying the roots, letting the air lift the hair against its natural fall direction. Only once the roots are dry should you drop your head back to neutral and let the rest of the style settle. This single change in drying angle, combined with the lighter product, is often the difference between a pixie that looks salon fresh and one that looks like it's trying to be, but falling a little short. The snapback result is immediate, and it's the one most women care about most. Hair that still has lift and shape at the end of the day, not just right after styling. No greasy roots by afternoon. No flat crown by the time you're heading out to dinner. This is the fix that makes every other fix in this video actually last, because a perfect cut styled with the wrong product is still going to look tired by mid-morning. And a good cut styled with the right lightweight product will hold its shape for the whole day. There's one more small thing worth mentioning, because it trips people up constantly. Less is genuinely more here, more than with almost any other hairstyle. If your pixie is looking greasy or weighed down and your instinct is to wash it more often, try the product swap first. Overwashing short, textured hair can actually strip it of the natural oils that help hold shape between styling, creating a cycle where you're washing daily, drying daily, and still not getting lift, when the Real fix was sitting in your bathroom cabinet the whole time in the form of the wrong bottle. So here's the final swap to hold on to. Before, a heavy cream or wax applied through the whole head, flattening the crown by midday and leaving roots looking weighed down or greasy by evening. After, a lightweight texturizing spray or a pea-sized amount of matte clay, applied only at the roots and crown, paired with a forward or angled blow-dry, holding lift and texture from morning until you're ready for bed. Same haircut, completely different finish all day long. That's all 7, and if you've been nodding along recognizing even 2 or 3 of these in your own routine, you're already ahead of most women walking into their next appointment without knowing what to ask for. So now you know exactly what separates a pixie that quietly ages you from one that looks classic no matter your age: the fringe technique, the part line, the nape, the crown texture, and the product habit that ties it all together. Every one of these is a 5-minute conversation with your stylist, and every one of them makes a real difference. You don't need a different haircut. You need the right details on the one you already love. Tell me in the comments, which of these 7 have you never asked your stylist for before today? If you enjoyed this, next time we're covering the exact words to say in the chair, so your stylist understands precisely what you want, every single time. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.